but his words left no gap at all. The other person held the letter while listening to the important words of the old man. He can let us meet Riola Branider directly. Hearing the man's confession, Ra ordered you to keep it yourself. Avon hesitated a bit. Yes, but if this is a trap set by the Emperor, then what? I will be in danger. However, those words were ignored. You go there yourself and see. He seems to want to F. Avon must go. I told you to join for a reason. At the castle, a very extravagant party was being held. Riola Branider showed up. She seemed worried and turned to seek help from Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach. I can't do it. And he was also helpless with Riola Branider. She held her head. I will make a mistake. I will embarrass you. So what? She even cried. Sir, then go through the main door yourself. I will sneak out through the side door later. Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach was also at a loss with her. The side door? Riola Branider? Confused. I don't know. Can I just walk straight into the main hall? Like last time? Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach held her hand to reassure her. How was it last time? If you ask, I don't remember. I don't remember clearly either. At that time, you were the only one I could see. Today, Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach raised Riola Branider's hand to his lips. So this time, just look at me. That's all you need to do. Then the two of them linked arms and walked straight out into the main hall. Suddenly, something made Riola Branider feel confused. Yes, it was a couple praising her. She looks really brave. And tonight, she looks very beautiful. She always surprises us, Miss Riola Branider. She didn't know what to say. Oh my, suddenly Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach wants to go alone. Riola Branider, I'll go over here a bit, okay? Of course, Riola Branider agreed. Yes, sir, go ahead. She knew she couldn't be queen by always depending on him. Truly, Riola Branider said it and did it. Because right after Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach left, she took the initiative to start conversations with everyone. Some people praised her. I heard you're also good at swordsmanship. Riola Branider was very happy. Oh yes, the compliments showed no sign of stopping. You can even ride a horse, right? That's amazing. You used to work as a mercenary in Riola. I heard you saved the Emperor's life. She is also here. But only after a while did Riola Branider realize they were talking about her. Me? She listened carefully to what they said about her. They said she single-handedly led knights to stop someone who intended to assassinate the Emperor. She was like a shining knight in gleaming armor, or rather, a princess in dazzling armor. Riola Branider didn't understand why their imagination was so wild. What are they saying? Oh my, a girl begging, could you allow us to occasionally visit the palace? We want to hear your heroic stories. Riola Branider was embarrassed by the request. Eisen suddenly appeared. Excuse me, you're looking for Her Majesty, who requests to meet the hero? Riola Branider, come with me. But she still heard whispers behind her back. He can't stand being away from her, right? They would make a great couple. Riola Branider asked Eisen, who? She was a bit shy about the rumors about herself. Who spread those silly rumors about me? They worship me as if I just saved the world. First of all, Eisen smirked. Do you really think Her Majesty would reveal you without any plan? Every guest at this banquet is someone who has helped the royal family since the previous queen's time. Riola Branider smiled happily. Eisen warned her, but don't relax too much. We still have a war ahead. Then suddenly he acted cool. But I will risk my life to protect you, so don't worry too much. Riola Branider was surely very grateful to him for this. Thank you, Captain Eisen. Suddenly, Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach appeared. What are you two talking about? Riola Branider became even more shy when she saw him. Her Majesty, Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach appeared in a very handsome outfit, exuding the majestic aura of an emperor, listening to what Riola Branider said. You two were talking about how much I love you. The young emperor took Riola Branider's hand. Of course, in the end, you will be my queen. Exuding the majestic aura of an emperor listening to what Riola Branider said, we were talking about how much he loves me. The young emperor took Riola Branider's hand. Of course, after all, you will be my empress. He pulled her close to him. More importantly, I already belong to you, Riola Branider, so of course I will do everything for you. Eisen witnessed this scene like a romance movie, and couldn't help but feel bored. Suddenly Isle and Avon appeared on the balcony, interrupting the romantic atmosphere. Isle bowed respectfully, greeting His Majesty the Emperor. Riola Branider felt somewhat confused. He didn't even look at her. I know he is a spy. But Avon gave a polite smile. I am very honored to meet you on such a celebratory occasion. Your Majesty, I am Avon from the Kingdom of Azen. Ha ha ha. He put his arm around Riola Branider's shoulder. I'm sure you've heard about Isle's achievements. About the last accident, Duke Dunn. If it weren't for Isle, my wife and I would have been in danger. I'm very grateful to him. The man was very displeased to hear the compliment. Glancing at Eel, I am very honored. Then suddenly, he squinted as if he had discovered something. Seeing him trembling, Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach also inquired, Is something wrong, Duke? Avon quickly replied, It's nothing, Your Majesty. He was panicked because, why was the stone black? It seemed Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach also knew what he was thinking. Earlier, he had told Eel that this was a fake magic stone worn to the party instead of the real one. You said that's the only way the Alliance can detect the air through that magic stone. So if you're right, this alone is enough to confuse them. That was all Isle remembered about the conversation. Seeing Isle act that way, Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach was quite satisfied. It seems he really wore it. He sighed. but I will reward you for raising and sending this talented young man to me." It seemed Avin had many hidden feelings in his heart. Your Majesty, I'm sorry, but I have something to say to him for a moment." Hohan pretended to care. "What is it?" The man was embarrassed and didn't know what to do. Seeing his awkwardness, of course, he was happy. "He's confused, so I plan to let him go." Before he could finish, he was surprised because Riola Branider and Isle held hands. Riola looked at him affectionately. It seemed they had been talking for a long time. "Let's step outside for a moment." Avin wanted to leave quickly. I guess this old man had bored her. "I'll take my leave first, Your Majesty." Hohan Linhart von Wiensbach showed goodwill. "I will see you off," but in his heart he did not. It worked. After those two left, Riola Branider cheerfully turned to Hohan Linhart von Wiensbach. "Your Majesty, but I feel something is wrong, Your Majesty." Riola Branider complained to Jess, and suddenly he got angry. He got upset and left. "Always. But everything I did was for him. Yet he acted as if only I was the heir who needed protection." Jess frowned. "I think His Majesty is very worried too." Riola Branider was confused. Why couldn't she say a word when he explained? He is worried about his future queen, who is often kidnapped and still a target of outside forces. Jess sighed. "And I heard she even touched the kidnapper's hand." Riola Branider also felt guilty toward Hohan Linhart von Wiensbach for acting that way. Moreover, Jess coldly said, "I will go talk to the Emperor. You should go to the balcony for some fresh air to clear your head." Riola Branider could only obey. What else could she do? The balcony door opened, and the fresh, cool air made Riola Branider feel much more comfortable. "It's so cool here," but it still wasn't enough to dispel the worries in her heart. "I made him worry. So many things have happened, so it's normal for him to be worried." She twisted the ring on her ring finger. "I need to apologize to him when he returns." Riola Branider blushed thinking about their upcoming marriage. Because she was his partner, suddenly someone appeared, startling Riola Branider. "Your Majesty, but the bigger surprise is that it wasn't Hohan Linhart von Wiensbach." "Excuse me, Riola Branider probably hasn't met this person before. He is a servant of the main palace." "Why are you asking about him? You startled me." "How long have you been standing there?" He didn't answer, making Riola Branider guess he had sneaked out because he couldn't stand the noisy party. She leaned on the railing and confided, "I heard everyone is very worried because this is the first big party since His Majesty's coronation." He still didn't say anything, so she felt a bit awkward. "It's been a long time since I talked to a stranger. The atmosphere is so awkward." Suddenly, Riola Branider realized something unusual. She stepped closer to him. "Have we met before?" The young master was a bit surprised by the question, so I could only turn my face away to avoid it. Riola Branider was embarrassed because she slipped up. "It seems I was mistaken. He looks like someone I've met before." He suddenly said something extremely confusing. "So you still remember?" Riola Branider looked bewildered. Then a heartless smile gradually appeared on his face. "You should be more careful. Leaving the queen alone like this is very dangerous. Someone is calling you." "Riola Branider," Hohan Linhart von Wiensbach anxiously called out. Riola Branider snapped back to reality. Riola Branider was lying on the sofa, dazed, asking Hohan Linhart von Wiensbach where she was. He replied, "You fainted on the balcony." She still didn't understand what was happening. "So I was alone?" Hohan Linhart von Wiensbach said sternly, "Yes, Jess will check on you." She interrupted, "Your Majesty." Riola Branider looked straight into the worried face of her fiancé. "I'm sorry, you must have been very worried about me." Apparently not reassured yet, Hohan Linhart von Wiensbach sat down beside her. Riola Branider comforted him. "It's okay now. I just relaxed a bit because I thought everything was over." She reassured him, "You shouldn't do that on your own. You should trust me and wait instead." Riola Branider continued, "I'm a bit impatient, because I'm afraid he will suspect him." Hohan Linhart von Wiensbach was overcome by the gentleness of his fiancée and held her hand tightly. "It's okay, but I still can't help worrying. Just don't do that again, okay? Especially with Eel." Riola Branider didn't quite understand that. Actually, there was another reason why Hohan Linhart von Wiensbach didn't want her near Isle. He really loves you, but he doesn't dare say it. He's still a dangerous person. Riola Branider nodded in agreement. He suggested, "Let's go back to the room and rest." Riola Branider felt a bit awkward because of the guests, but now with Hohan Linhart von Wiensbach, her safety was the top priority. "Are you planning not to listen to me and go out again?" Riola Branider said. "You know my nature from the start." She blushed shyly looking at him. "So even if you find me annoying, don't abandon me, okay?" Hohan Linhart von Wiensbach carried her like a princess. Oh my god. That night, the Emperor announced the marriage at the party. The person he married was Riola Branider, the hero who saved his life. Believe it. The news about the Emperor's marriage spread throughout the empire, but someone, upon reading this news in the newspaper, tore the paper in half. Greta was furious. Neither Isle nor Riola Branider could do anything. Suddenly, someone appeared. "This is terrible, isn't it?" That person entered Greta's room and announced that the border had been closed, and the Emperor was threatening to send soldiers to Riola. Greta broke out in a sweat hearing this. Maybe she thought everything would be resolved when there was a new king, but it seemed everything wouldn't end until she was permanently captured. She didn't know who he was. "Who are you?" He laughed, took off his cloak, and gave a fake holy smile. "Just call me your new ally, young master." He led Greta into a dark room. He coldly spoke as if giving orders. "Go in. You can rest here while you wait." Greta suspiciously stood a foot away from the young master. What do you want? He took off his cloak and answered vaguely, I want you to get back what I just lost. Greta remained very cautious behind him. What is that? The young master placed his hand on the table and continued playing the mysterious CEO role. You'll know soon enough. Greta shivered and began negotiating. Then at least tell me your name. The young master fiddled with a paper on the table. My name? Greta raised her hand to object. You said we would be allies, so at least I should know your name. But the young master didn't seem to care about what she said, because he was busy feeling more irritated inside when he saw the photo of a happy man and woman in the newspaper. Then he crumpled the paper, almost tearing it. He suddenly remembered his childhood days when Riola Branitor was still by his side, innocently calling him young master, making the already dark space even darker. Looking at his back, you just want to say scary, scary. Suddenly, the young master turned around and gave a creepy smile. He took the newspaper to cover half his mouth and calmly replied, What? I don't have a name. Just call me young master. That's enough. Greta clearly sensed his craziness. She was shocked and cursed silently. This guy is crazy, isn't he? Or maybe this guy is working for the Emperor. Just now he casually asked for a name, but now he's so cautious he doesn't dare speak up. Greta unconsciously avoided the expression of disgust but couldn't help staring at the bedside table scattered with bottles, both experimental equipment and that wine. Then the scene shifts to a brighter place, the horse carriage wheel. Just looking at it, you can see the noble clan starting to roll. It passes through rustic yet warm eateries lit by rays of sunlight, and soothed by the sound of birds, sunlight filtering through the tree canopy, slipping through the small window frame on the carriage. Suddenly a sound cuts through her restlessness. Riola Branitor, are you okay? She looks toward the person sitting there, his brows slightly relaxed, but still unable to hide his worry. His voice gently reassures her. I don't want you to lose anything else. Now they have arrived at the palace. Along the corridor the footsteps are steady but heavy, making one feel melancholic. Herr Hohan Linhart von Wiensbach throws a paper to Avon, bluntly threatening. But if you sign this, I will spare your life. Avon takes it, looking at the paper with fear, his body trembling involuntarily. It's like he can't believe his eyes. It states that the kingdom of Riola will become part of the mighty Elstravok Empire. Avon hurriedly kneels before Herr Hohan Linhart von Wiensbach, stammering and begging, please have mercy, but Herr Hohan Linhart von Wiensbach firmly says, my mercy is for your people. His face remains expressionless, but his words are like thousands of knives. You don't deserve it. The light from the window shines in, making the room bright and clear, but no matter what, it cannot improve Avon's mood. Herr Hohan Linhart von Wiensbach continues. I have received approval from the International Committee for this treaty, and a large crowd is gathering outside. Your castle, all your soldiers have fled in fear. If you refuse to sign this treaty, my soldiers will leave with me, and you will face the angry people alone. Tell me, how long do you think you can endure? Frankly, the people now are like hungry tigers. If not careful, Avon will be torn apart easily. Therefore, after hearing this, his body trembles violently. Avon clenches his hands tightly and finally agrees. I will sign. The signing is successful. Herr Hohan Linhart von Wiensbach leisurely leaves the room, completely unconcerned about Avon and his guard. After walking a bit, a voice calls out, catching Herr Hohan Linhart von Wiensbach's attention. Have you convinced him yet? It's Riola Branitor. Seeing her anxious, he reassures her. Letting go of a declining kingdom isn't that hard. They talk as they walk. The hardest part is how to restore this kingdom and convince everyone to return. Riola Branitor has no brilliant ideas about that, but she carries another worry. What if people oppose? Becoming part of the empire? Herr Hohan Linhart von Wiensbach brings her to the window and gently reassures. You don't have to worry. Riola Branitor opens her eyes wide, unable to believe the scene outside is real. The crowd that was shouting and yelling earlier is now laughing and chatting cheerfully, continuously cheering. Herr Hohan Linhart von Wiensbach gently puts his arm around her and says, on the contrary, the people will welcome you because you brought the Emperor here to save the homeland. Riola Branitor suddenly realizes that on the day the king signed the treaty, Herr Hohan Linhart von Wiensbach declared the current king's abdication and the empire's takeover, as well as support for the country. The flag of the mighty Elstrud Empire now flutters against the blue sky of a once declining kingdom, signaling a prosperous future. The empire's knights have been sent to help repair damaged houses. Some carry wood, others lay roofs. They are so enthusiastic they overlook the usual solemnity of the empire and even allocate budgets to provide financial support and distribute food to war victims. Many people who had to become bandits can now return to normal life. The wave of anger quickly subsides after a period of development. The once declining kingdom is now about to become a prosperous part of the empire. Elstrove. That day, Riola Branitor sat in the carriage meeting the people. The curious crowd gathered close, seeing it was the respected empress. A girl stepped forward to give her a flower branch. We wish you and His Majesty all the best. Riola Branitor happily accepted and thanked her. Suddenly she noticed a strange gaze from afar. Looking closer, she saw a strange person, wearing a kitmit cloak hiding in the crowd. That was young master. From afar, sensing he had been spotted, he felt uneasy. Returning to his house, I didn't understand what was wrong with him as he kept coughing continuously. Now Greta placed a shimmering glass bottle filled with a purple liquid on the table. "Young master, do you need this?" Greta held it up and shook it proudly. Suddenly, Greta smiled meaningfully. "I'm not trying to cause trouble. Calm down, we're allies after all. I just want you to share information with me." The young master sneered, then continued coughing for a few more times. Meanwhile, she had run out of patience and started to lay her cards on the table. "You are a descendant of Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach. You'll be in trouble if you don't take these medicines on time." The young master coughed so much he had to lean on the chair but still played the CEO act. "So you know," Greta growled. "Answer my question. Who exactly are you?" The young master cupped a few drops of blood, smiled mockingly, but his face looked cowardly. "Are you mocking me? I thought being a descendant with abilities might just bring some interesting dreams." Rita was annoyed seeing him joke like that. "That's not the point. Where are you from and what are you doing?" They asked clearly already. But he still had no intention of answering. The princess asked, "Can you ask a better question?" Then Greta suddenly changed the subject, straight to his dark heart. "Are you really talking about Riola Branitor? Extraordinary? Really? Always? She's not that skilled. She's nothing." The young master suddenly retorted, making Greta stiffen. "Don't you find it strange?" The young master mocked her. "Descendants of Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach usually go mad and die young, but your Fabian is very healthy." Hearing that, she began stammering to defend, "That's because Fabian is very special." The young master completely shattered Greta's thoughts. "It's not because Fabian is special, but because Riola Branitor is the descendant of Antu. She is currently the embodiment of the purest form. That's why I need her. But I think it's not just me. The whole world desires her." As soon as he finished, Greta was so embarrassed she got angry. She threw the glass bottle straight at the young lord's head. Luckily, he dodged in time, or he would have been done for, always looking at the shattered glass on the floor. He could only stay silent, then covered his mouth and laughed sarcastically. "So, you want to hear the truth that you already know, right? From the start, everything revolved around Riola Branitor, not you." Greta just stood silently, her face darkening as if about to rush forward and tear him apart. Then she burst out laughing. "Ha ha!" As if trying to hide her pain, the laughter grew louder and louder, filling the entire room. Even she herself felt her actions were ridiculous. Riola Branitor is the descendant of Antu? If Riola Branitor helped Fabian survive and I stole him from her, what have I done? The tears in her eyes had already fallen to the floor, but her mouth still forced a smile. "Ha ha ha." After the young master's words, Greta suddenly realized a painful truth. "So I killed Fabian." After saying that, she turned abruptly and slammed the door. Greta ran straight from the mansion into the deep forest. Maybe I knew from the start, from the first time I met her. I felt she was very special, completely different from me. I need her to become dimmer while she was still lost in her thoughts. Her legs uncontrollably tripped over a big rock, and Greta fell to the ground. But she still couldn't escape those dark thoughts. Let me become special. She seemed very desperate, but in the end, the useless and dim one was herself. She stood up and stepped toward the cliff. Looking down into the deep abyss before her, she gave a faint smile with eyes that had lost half their soul. "Congratulations, you win, Riola Branitor." But suddenly, her body was held back. A voice echoed, "You can't die yet. There is still something you need to do." It turned out the young master had caught her, but his pale appearance scared Greta. A ghostly figure, it seemed he was just her imagination, but Greta didn't realize it. She even wondered, how could he get here so fast? The shadow imagined by Greta began whispering into her ear, "If you've discovered the truth, then you have to clarify it, right? Just like you did with Fabian." A night passed, and the scene returned to its peaceful original state. Like when she did with Fabian, a night passed and the scene returned to its original peaceful state. After restoring the once declined kingdom, the emperor decided to marry, and this news quickly spread out. People in the palace began to gossip. "The emperor has set the wedding date." The two leaned against the pillar, laughing and joking happily. "The girl's name is Riola Branitor, right?" One person holding the newspaper said while reading, "Just 10 more days." Hearing that, the person next to him was really surprised. Why is he in such a hurry? And Kia only knew how to answer. Who knows what the emperor is thinking? They were so busy gossiping that they forgot their own tasks. It wasn't until the footsteps grew closer that they paid attention. Wait, someone is coming. Vertical bar. They looked at the woman fully covered in front of them, wondering, but there were no visitors today. Who is she? Greta began to pull it down. Vertical bar. One of them recognized the familiar black hair. Wait, she is. When her hood was fully removed, they were shocked to recognize the Princess of Riola. Vertical bar. She is wanted. Call the knights. But the two guards still casually talked to Greta without any caution. Vertical bar. How dare she come here? To report about the heir, right? Greta calmly answered, yes. Vertical bar. It seemed the two men sensed the hostility in her words. Suddenly, they were startled and pale. And vertical bar, Greta's eyes widened. Even her smile was distorted. Her face no longer had the gentle elegance of a princess. I am here to report about the heir of Anat Kane. Vertical bar scene shifts to the main hall. Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach and Riola Branitor were chatting in the room when Eisen burst in hurriedly. Your Majesty, we have received a summons from the temple. Vertical bar. Hearing the urgent voice, the two were startled. Eisen ran in and handed Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach a letter. Vertical bar. Riola Branitor anxiously asked, Han, is the temple summoning us? But why? Or have they discovered your identity? Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach. Vertical bar. After reading the letter, he frowned. Seeing his confused expression, Riola Branitor grew more anxious and approached to ask, Your Majesty? She glanced at the letter and suddenly realized it was an order addressed to Riola Branitor. Since Riola Branitor was summoned, the entire palace was in turmoil. Vertical bar. Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach anxiously paced back and forth in the room. His secretary followed closely behind. The vertical bar. They were informed about the situation and requested to know if Miss Branitor had to undergo the Holy Maiden verification. Iran had decided to withdraw the congratulatory delegation from the wedding. A vertical bar. Other kingdoms were demanding verification of Miss Branitor's bloodline and abilities. They wanted to collectively propose an agreement to decide her future. Vertical bar. Hearing such nonsense, Han, though displeased, said the temple was a neutral organization, so it was not surprising that the news spread everywhere. His secretary thought it seemed like someone was deliberately spreading rumors. Vertical bar. Regardless, the most important matter now was to meet with the old men in the castle. Vertical bar. Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach cursed silently. Those old men must be going crazy. He calmly entered the meeting room, passing by people whispering, Your Majesty, is this true? Is she really the heir of Anne? Is Miss Riola Branitor truly the Holy Maiden? Do you know anything about this? Your Majesty, these old men are so troublesome. If I were happy, I'd have beheaded them already. Han sat down, raised his hand, signaling everyone to shut up. Vertical bar. Listen to me. I declare Riola Branitor Bernita as my queen. She is your queen, the mother of this land. Does she need any other title? The previously noisy crowd immediately fell silent at his words. After dealing with these troublesome old men, he turned to order Eisen to use the emergency communication network to send a message to all other kingdoms. Anyone who covets or doubts my queen will be considered an enemy of the Empire. We are ready to declare war at any time. Vertical bar. Arrogant, huh? But you know, he is the male lead, so he can do whatever he wants. Vertical bar. Eisen saluted and obeyed, returning to the couple's room. While the two were talking, Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach fell into thought, making Riola Branitor call his name repeatedly. Did you hear me, Your Majesty? Vertical bar. He was startled, turned around, and said, Sorry, Riola Branitor, can you repeat that? Yes. She sighed, but still answered. I will go to the temple. Vertical bar. Her answer surprised him. What? She trembled, clutching her dress tightly. Did you hear what I said, Your Majesty? He was startled and turned around. Sorry, Riola Branitor. Can you repeat that? Yes. Riola Branitor sighed, but still answered. I will come to the temple. Her answer surprised him. What? She trembled, clutching her dress tightly, but still thought that being discovered by them was only a matter of time. So going to the temple before that happens would be better. Ha ha ha. Hearing that, he could only remain silent, so she continued to express her worries, and her worry about Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach, or she would be sent to a camp if they confirmed her. Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach hurriedly came forward to pat her back to reassure her. No, that won't happen. The camp is a place to control the descendants of Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach. They might have a say in the fate of the descendants of the house, Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach. But the shrine has no right to detain or control a descendant of an Anne. I'm sure they will present all kinds of evidence to prove your rights. But before he could finish, her sigh cut him off. Well, that's fine then. Riola Branitor smiled happily because she knew he would protect her. Hearing that, Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach suddenly felt regretful. If I had known this would happen, I would have held the wedding ceremony sooner. Riola Branitor suddenly broke out in a cold sweat. Even earlier. What? Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach explained. Because then I would have more reasons to protect you. At that time, you would be my wife instead of my fiancé. Riola Branitor stood up and went to the wooden cabinet to look for something. Well, let's do it. In Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach's confusion, she took out a letter and proudly said, Just in time, because our marriage certificate was also sent this morning. The only pity is Eisen, who was suddenly urgently summoned and had to run like crazy. Running so hard the ground shook, he hurriedly opened the door. Your Majesty, I was told you need me immediately. But inside it was strangely peaceful. He was confused. Jess and the other two, Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach and Jess, looked at Eisen as if he had done something very strange. Don't overdo it, Eisen. I just need you here as a witness. Eisen was even more confused. A witness? Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach answered calmly. Exactly, because the wedding ceremony needs witnesses. Hearing this, both Jess and Eisen looked puzzled. Ha ha ha, quick and efficient, direct them. Eisen, you stand here, and Jess, you stand here. Our marriage will be valid as soon as we sign the marriage certificate. The wedding can be held later. Jess was pleased. That's a smart decision. I support it. Eisen could only stare blankly. They turned off all the lights, leaving only a little light from a small candle. Today, Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach and Riola Branitor held hands standing before that candle. The king gently placed the ring on the future queen's finger. Riola Branitor gently asked, Do you know what this means, Your Majesty? Herrhan Linhart von Wiensbach happily kept looking at her hand. What? Riola Branider was equally happy. It means you have the duty to protect me. There may be countless people who want to have me, but only you have the right to protect me. With 2 flags flying on the royal carriage roof, they arrived at the shrine. One flag bore a yellow lion representing the emperor, and the other had a red rose, representing the empress. The carriage stopped in front of the temple. Herrhan Linhart von Wiensbach held Dior Riola Branider's hand as she got off. Archbishop Ludovico immediately came out to welcome and respectfully greet His Majesty the Emperor and sent greetings to the descendants of An, the greatest blessing God has given. He hugged her. She was my empress. We have already read the vows together. Maybe the archbishop found it too cheesy and didn't want to watch anymore, so he quickly turned away. The verification process will begin now. Please follow me. The 2 quietly followed the archbishop. Although they had discussed it thoroughly, Riola Branider was still very anxious. Seeing her thoughts, Herrhan Linhart von Wiensbach hugged his wife's shoulders to reassure her. Don't worry, Riola Branider, he said gently. I will handle everything. You just need to focus on me. Up to this point, I just want to say clearly that this life owes me a Herrhan Linhart von Wiensbach. A while later, Riola Branider wore a transparent veil covering her face, standing before the altar to perform the ritual. After a long wait during which we were not allowed to watch, the archbishop declared the verification process complete. Based on the verification results, it was confirmed that Riola Branider is indeed a descendant of An, a person with the potential to become a high-level protector. Contrary to her worries, the commoners present at the shrine became even more excited and grew to love this queen more. Other nobles also loudly offered 20,000 silvers. I will also add the royal gold mine. But the blessing of God originally belongs to this shrine. Another person stood up. Everyone, calm down. Everyone forgot the 6 Lands Alliance Treaty. He pointed at Riola Branider, drawing attention to her, a special saint and a high-level protector. It must be the Alliance managing all members in the Alliance, who all have joint ownership rights over her. And so a new saintess has appeared. Your Majesty, please hand her over right now. Damn it, I can only say this guy is ridiculously stupid. He spoke so bluntly to the Emperor, and in response, Herrhan Linhart von Wiensbach was just as decisive. He drew his sword and slashed across the noble's neck. Everyone was excited, but then silenced by the Emperor, and blood splattered everywhere. That talkative noble hadn't even grasped what was happening before he lost his life, and the other nobles turned pale at the sight. They hurriedly moved aside before the 7 sharp screams of that guy, and that was the last sound he uttered. After killing the noble, Herrhan Linhart von Wiensbach calmly stepped forward. This place is indeed very interesting, huh? Today, Herrhan Linhart von Wiensbach stood proudly on the high platform, looking at the corpse sprawled on the ground and the nobles retreating fearfully. Some even collapsed to the ground. Herrhan Linhart von Wiensbach, once a great warrior from long ago, now proclaimed himself the Alliance. Then they handed me a strange, old, useless piece of paper and called it a treaty. And you guys still intend to buy the Emperor's woman? As if she were just an object. I sneered and looked at the Archbishop. Who else wants her? Anyone else want to keep fighting for her? The old man lowered his head submissively. Please calm down, Your Majesty. This is the central representative. That is the Saintess, a gift bestowed by the Lord. Herrhan Linhart von Wiensbach arrogantly questioned. So what? That left the old man speechless. I sneered. Is there anything on this land that doesn't belong to me? 1. I think being threatened like this is fine. 2. I only turned my back and left because I feared affecting Riola Branider, right? Fine. I apologize for causing chaos here. I just don't like you daring to covet my treasure. The old man heard this and was furious. But besides grinding his teeth, what else could he do? By the way, there are many people and many lives here. I'll announce it now. I officially announce that Riola Branider belongs to me, Herrhan Linhart von Wiensbach. Despite the crowd starting to murmur, I continued. I only agreed to appear here to warn all of you. If anyone still dares to covet my queen, you better prepare for war. To face me, Herrhan sheathed his sword and stepped beside Riola Branider, calling her name Riola Branider. He reached out, smiling as gently as possible. Let me carry you home. You shouldn't step on these filthy things. Yet Riola Branider suffered. She hugged Herrhan Linhart von Wiensbach's neck, and he gently lifted her up. Together they walked out the temple door, away from the chaos inside, as if they were leaving the past behind and continuing toward a brighter future. After the two left, the new archbishop dared to show his inner frustration, gripping the paper tightly and slamming it on the table. That damn emperor! How dare he commit such disgrace in my temple? The old man was so angry he ground his teeth. He intended to claim the saintess alone. The blue-haired archbishop was restless. What should we do? The old man quickly replied, surely he has learned the news. We must wait for the master's orders. Oh damn. So that's young Master Ham's faction? Really the leader, huh? The blue-haired archbishop suddenly remembered something. What about Princess Greta? You reminded me. The day Greta entered the temple, I was the one who received her. Who does she want to negotiate with? Why did she nod so eagerly? Yes, I will tell you who the heir is. In return, she must help me and Fabian escape. The old man turned away. I'm not sure about that. She's a wanted criminal. Helping her would negatively affect the temple. Then Greta immediately revealed her hand. Stop pretending. Are you still talking to me or accusing me? You're also a traitor to the Emperor, right? Back to the present. The Archbishop clicked his tongue and said to the blue-haired Archbishop, just grant her wish. That heir named Fabian won't live long anyway. And meanwhile, Greta dragged Fabian deep into the forest. Even though his blood had long stained the ground, Greta still wanted him to run. Fabian tiredly called out, Your Highness? The old Archbishop's words still echoed in her ears. Just let them go. Before we are discovered helping them, this is your last moment of freedom, Princess. Enjoy it. Fabian pushed Greta away. Your Highness, he shouted. Enough already. Rita was shocked by his attitude. Fabian, what are you doing? Although his face looked reluctant, his hand gripped the piece of glass tightly, trembling. Holding the glass forward, Rita finally realized that he intended to kill me with that. Why? She asked again as if seeking comfort. In the end, you wouldn't dare do that, right? Fabian shed tears, but remained determined. If this is the only way to make her stop, I will do it. Fabian's next words seemed to want to break her. Please stop, I beg you. Leave Riola Branider alone. She's been hurt enough. Greta bowed her head, furrowed her brows, eyes brimming with tears. Fabian, you fool, after everything that happened. He still only cared about Riola Branider. She stepped closer to Fabian, voice trembling. No, you won't stab me now. Greta wiped the tears from his face. I know you wouldn't do that to me. She hugged the one she loved tightly. Unaware that the sharp piece of glass was pressed against her stomach, the call Fabi was cut off by a stab, causing him to freeze. Fabian held her, comforting. Your Highness, I will follow you right after. Recalling old memories, there was once a sweet Fabian who blushed whenever he called her princess. Greta still held the belief that he could never kill her. In her eyes, even though I destroyed his entire life, all he did was foolishly protect me. That's the kind of person he is, but perhaps Fabian's actions are also a form of protection for her, because he didn't want her to make any more mistakes. I'm sorry, Princess. After a while, Greta finally gave in. Ending her tragic journey, Fabian intended to end his own life, but at that moment, a shadow appeared. His eyes closed tightly, vision blurred until consciousness returned. He found himself lying on a strange bed. Fabian opened his eyes and looked toward the door, surprised to see Riola Branider standing there. She looked at him with worry, not the kind of concern for health, but more like suspicion. She stood far from him. Only Fabian wanted to talk to her. I always knew you were special. I'm glad you're safe. Seeing her remain silent, Fabian began to plead with Riola Branider. Can I hear your voice? Riola Branider's face was full of disdain. She frowned and even narrowed her eyes at him. Suddenly, Fabian started coughing violently. Cough, 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 making Riola Branider worried. When he lifted his hand, it was covered in blood, which shocked him. Yet, he still clenched his hand, pretending nothing was wrong, even smiling. I know I have no right to ask you to do this, but... Finally, Riola Branider spoke, cutting him off bluntly. Stop pretending to be noble, Fabian. She turned her back. You're just selfish. Don't think you're sacrificing yourself for me when all you've done is abandon me. It was he who left Riola Branider to follow Greta before. Fabian remembered that clearly. He could only say, I'm sorry. You're right. I'm sorry. But Riola Branider refused. Don't apologize to me. I will never forgive you. And of course, how could Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach, a possessive man, let his beloved wife go meet an ex? He stood outside the door listening to Riola Branider's final words. Never, she said. Fabian raised an eyebrow. Riola Branider, annoyed, turned to look at him. And now you won't even answer me? How could I answer? You just coughed up a lot of blood and didn't even try to save yourself. Now you're sulking? Seeing this, Riola Branider couldn't hold back her tears, falling uncontrollably. You won't answer me. You're selfish until the very end. After a night of crying over her past love, Riola Branider returned to Jess Castle, probably afraid of bothering her and making Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach upset. So worried, she kept apologizing. I'm sorry you had to meet Princess Greta again because of this. Riola Branider smiled and said, It's okay, I'm happy I could help everyone. Her expression suddenly darkened. Looking evenly at young Master Kia, her tone turned cold. I also want to see for myself. Looking evenly matched, young Master Kia's voice also turned cold. I also want to see for myself how she faces her final moments. Oh, Greta is not dead yet, now locked in a dungeon, her hands chained and mouth gagged. Looks pitiful, but whatever. Riola Branider stepped inside. After all, he still didn't feel ashamed of himself. Why, all you do is cause trouble and hide behind others. You don't care about anyone's life. Greta whispered, calling Riola Branider. She stepped in front of Greta and bowed. Next time, don't use such a cowardly method again. Try revealing yourself, will you? Riola Branider removed Greta's gag, surprising her. Otherwise, she said, I have to bring Greta back to the heroine's spotlight. Riola Branider was momentarily covered in flowers and sweet light. She only took down the cloth, but looked no different from a fairy. I have a few things to say to her. Hey, this part clearly shows Riola Branider's goodwill. I don't understand why Greta suddenly freaked out. Her eyes widened as she looked at Riola Branider. She even struggled, pulling the chain and shouting her name, Riola Branider. Jess and the guards outside saw her acting wildly and worried. Miss Riola Branider. But she remained very calm, watching Greta. I'm fine. She turned around and smiled gently. I'm not afraid. She continued talking to Greta, probably wondering why she was here. Riola Branider looked up at the ceiling. Recalling the dark days like Greta's current situation, she said, "You know, when I was imprisoned in Riota's dungeon, but at that time, Riola Branider carried a wish. I really wanted to meet you. There are many things I want to ask you. And now Greta has taken that place, but she never came." Riola Branider expressed sympathy. "I understand the fear of being alone in a dungeon. I realize that surely now." She must feel the same, but Greta didn't care at all and even mocked her back. "You came here because you think I'm scared, right?" Riola Branider's eyes immediately hardened. "Don't misunderstand." After telling her story, Riola Branider explained why she was still alive sitting here. Jess kept her alive because he insisted on seeing her executed. For the crime she committed, he insisted on seeing her executed for the crime she committed. But Greta remained stubborn, continuing to mock Riola Branider. "You always act superior. But you're just like me." Hearing this ridiculous statement, Riola Branider corrected, "No, I protect the man I love. But you don't." Riola Branider sat down and spoke to Greta with an extremely hypocritical face. "You're very determined to kill me, huh? But in the end, you failed in every way to kill me. You're pathetic. Does it hurt you that Fabian, the man you tried to protect, stabbed you? Now you can't even take revenge on him. He's dead." Greta processed this. Perhaps being stabbed to death by the one you love wouldn't hurt as much as living the rest of your life never seeing him again. Greta sighed, mumbling Fabian's name. Fabian. Riola Branider perhaps achieved her goal and left with the thought that they could just live, ignoring each other. Ignoring whether AI is a descendant or not. Farewell, Greta Fiodona, the poor, miserable woman. Elsewhere, the young master writhed continuously, looking at the glass bottles scattered on the ground. It seemed he had taken a lot of medicine, but the pain did not lessen at all. The coughs kept echoing in the room. "Try revealing yourself, will you?" He suddenly gave a bizarre smile. Who knows how miserable the next step will be. After settling Greta's matter, Riola Branider continued to monitor the country situation. She sat in the large garden, leisurely reading the newspaper, but her heart was full of thoughts amid reports about the descendants of Antu and the princess. Greta was executed recently. There hasn't been a single peaceful day. Not only the kingdom's situation, but even Riola Branider's life was equally disrupted, causing her a great headache. "I guess it's no surprise that everyone has been avoiding me since I returned to the palace." Riola Branider silently pondered something. Then she suddenly stood up. She thought, "But it's okay, I will regain their support and stand by His Majesty." Determined to the extreme, then a scream startled her. "Are you crazy?" The next words from the people in the room made her even more anxious. "Our queen is." So instead of going to the place Han mentioned earlier, she decided to lurk outside the door to listen to the conversation. At that moment, Herhan Linhart von Wiensbach arrived. Those inside still hadn't realized what was happening, so their mouths kept babbling. "Therefore, we cannot invite those who have treated our queen badly." Another servant spoke up in support. "I agree. Didn't they even threaten not to send a delegation to the wedding just a few days ago? And now they want to meet her privately?" A servant in there is almost as bold as if someone dared to approach the queen. "I'll deal with that guy. Anyone who intends to take Miss Riola Branider away must be banned from setting foot on our territory forever." After hearing this, all three nodded in agreement. "We must remove them from the wedding guest list. By the way, we should also strengthen security around the castle. We will deploy as many soldiers as possible before the wedding." To protect our Miss Branider, Riola Branider was utterly stunned upon hearing this, unable to believe her ears. Amid everyone's concern for her, Herhan Linhart von Wiensbach, standing behind her, was very pleased. He embraced Riola Branider and whispered, "They are even more tense than I am because they fear someone might take you away from here. They don't have time to hate you." But she still had some doubts, so she asked her husband why they were ignoring her. Who was it? It turned out all her worries until now were caused by this dear husband. "I ordered them not to bother you. They also feel guilty towards you," she asked in surprise. "Really?" "Ah, not only did I order them, I also threatened them. They once made a fuss and doubted you, so I forbade them from looking at you. Otherwise, they would have to face the wrath of Antu." Riola Branider was startled and thought it was all a lie. "Ha ha ha," he continued to comfort his wife. But it still sounded like he was telling her to rest until the wedding happens, right? "You don't know how much the servants want to talk to you." So the two held hands again. Scene change. Isle was walking down the corridor. The bright sunlight streamed through the windows, illuminating everywhere but not reaching him. Suddenly, he noticed something after a chaotic period. Spring had come, and the beautiful scene before him resembled an old memory. It was as if he saw his past outside in the yard. Denny ran over and hugged him tightly, calling him brother too. Eel's mother and another woman slowly approached. Seeing them, he was completely surprised. "Dennis's mother? How did you two get here?" He anxiously pushed his sister away. "You two can't be here if the Emperor finds out." Dennis saw his brother react so strongly and quickly explained, "Yes, the Empress allowed me and mother to come here. We can spend time together because brother too has a day off. And she promised me we would move to a better house." Isle was extremely shocked to hear this. He didn't expect the new Empress to be so noble, but she had protected her family from the alliance. "How can I ever repay her?" He sighed suddenly, perhaps feeling that his family owed Herhan Linhart von Wiensbach and Riola Branider too much. Lost in thought, suddenly his mother called Isle. She looked at him with pain. "You have suffered so much, my child. I'm sorry. I know how dangerous your work is, but I ignored it. We are safe like this because of you. Ail thought differently. It's because the Emperor and Empress protect us. Ail's mother agreed. You're right. We must find a way to repay them. Eel's mother suddenly remembered something. Eel, do you remember your father also worked in the Alliance? His belongings are still in the basement. Maybe there's something there that can help you. The items she mentioned were some steel boxes, drums, or buckets. Especially a wooden cabinet neatly placed in the cellar containing stacks of papers. So he took those papers to Herrn Linhart von Weinsbach. He hurried as if being late would cause him to miss a great opportunity. He ran straight to Herrn Linhart von Weinsbach's study. Without saying a word or knocking, he barged into the room. Excuse me today. Herrn Linhart von Weinsbach looked at El in surprise. He was walking back to his desk. You know, we're in a meeting, right? He showed obvious irritation. His eyebrows nearly met. You better have a reason. So El placed the stack of papers on the desk. He asked confusedly, what is this? El immediately explained as if it was something vague. Well, it's kind of something, but also nothing. You'll know if you read it. Her Majesty Herrn Linhart von Weinsbach read every word and was shocked. Speechless, Jess and Eisen sat below. Seeing Herrn Linhart von Weinsbach's face changing so much, they also panicked and hurriedly asked about it. What's going on, Your Majesty? What is that? Herrn Linhart von Weinsbach's voice suddenly deepened noticeably, and the atmosphere clearly darkened. It looked no different than a horse's hoof. All the lights in the room went out. El, where did you get this? I replied immediately. This is a document my father hid. It was written a long time ago, so I think it might have been edited. The room suddenly fell silent, but at least the lights were turned back on. Hehehe, Jess and Eisen had been waiting eagerly. Their necks were getting as long as giraffes. Always like that, but Herrn Linhart von Weinsbach didn't bother to speak. Too curious, so Jess had to ask again. Your Majesty, may I ask what that document is? Ha ha ha. Without hesitation, he gave the answer. It is the list of members of the Alliance. The lights flickered off again. I think this castle is running out of electricity. Jess was shocked after hearing that. Speechless, and Eisen also stood up in astonishment. Ha ha ha, laughing with delight, Jess said. We have to prepare for a big party. Oh my god, he laughed with a sly look, so mischievous yet handsome somehow. Don't you think it would be great if we had a grand finale? Yes, that's the Emperor's decision. Exactly, just one word and it spreads across the country. The castle servants began whispering, another royal party? But they laughed mockingly. The wedding hasn't even happened yet. Another maid interrupted. Listen, I heard this will be the biggest party the palace has ever held. Really? She exclaimed. It's so big that the Emperor has mobilized all the palace servants for this party. That maid was also very surprised. I wonder what special guests we will have. I want to join too, sob, the maid said excitedly. You'll be surprised. The door of the luxurious carriage opened. An elder Archbishop Ludovico stepped down solemnly. The words of the maid, though from afar, sounded like an official introduction. The other honored guest this time was considered the Archbishop. From the central hall, as the elder Archbishop stepped down from the carriage, someone came to welcome him. Welcome to the palace, Archbishop Ludovico. But with only one person coming to greet him like this, I affirmed that this party might actually be used to expose that old man. The servant respectfully led him inside. I will fully assist you according to His Majesty's order. It sounded like if His Majesty didn't call, I wouldn't do it. Damn. The Archbishop wandered the upstairs hallway, silently judging the Emperor in his mind. Surely he is a fool to welcome me like this. He looked down at the main hall where nobles were dancing to the melody. The music was melodious during the party. He chuckled inwardly. They could never know that everyone at this party was a member of the Alliance, unaware that they were the biggest fish about to be caught. Speaking of which, a few nights ago at the temple, the outside scene was peaceful, but inside it was exhausting. The Archbishop cautiously asked again, what? He intends to overthrow the Emperor at the upcoming banquet? The mysterious man sitting opposite confirmed, yes, we received a letter from Lord Cai. This man was covered head to toe, leaving only the lower half of his face and neck visible. Generally, he's no match for our country's ninja leads, Han Shen said mysteriously. Lord Cai has control over all palace activities. Now only the Emperor remains as the final obstacle to deal with. The plan will be, as soon as the Archbishop announces some nonsense, he will simultaneously play a tape to expose the Emperor's evil nature and depose him. Immediately upon his signal, our soldiers waiting there will storm in. The Emperor won't be able to stop us, and the plan will be complete. To ensure the plan goes smoothly, they discussed other matters. The Archbishop asked about the signal. The mysterious man quickly replied, reading this at the banquet is our signal. He flipped the paper. His expression changed. He frowned suddenly, sensing a heavy aura, pressing down on him so heavily it made breathing difficult. In the name of the temple, we will punish the Emperor's cruelty, then restore Entu's heir to her rightful position. This is also the reasonable reason to depose the Emperor. His hand clenched the paper, trembling. The mysterious man immediately reassured him, don't be afraid, our alliance is strong. Returning to the present situation, the Archbishop still stood upstairs. Watching everyone dance, he had long nurtured a feeling of smug satisfaction, so much so that he didn't bother to hide his despicable face. Everything will be perfect according to Mr. Cai's plan. The party continued smoothly after the dance. The nobles all looked up at the gallery where the emperor and the new queen stood waiting for the archbishop's blessing. Suddenly, a voice called his name, surprising him. Archbishop Ludovic Riola Branider took Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach's arm and gently spoke in happiness. Will you bless us for the future of the queen and the throne, and for the prosperity of the empire under the protection of Anne? The archbishop smiled coldly and pretended to say, of course, a blatant lie. About to kill someone, yet still pretending to be innocent, the archbishop firmly repeated the important sentence twice. I declare that peace and prosperity will come to this land. I declare. Peace and prosperity will come to this land. The main hall was filled with the archbishop's voice as the messenger of God, and as the head of the central representation respected by the world from the declaration of peace. He began to carry out his despicable plan. Now as the representative of the Global Alliance, an organization established to honor the descendants of the gods. I officially accuse the emperor of being a tyrant who has brought suffering to this land. The nobles below had at least heard a bit about this. They whispered quietly to follow the procedure, while the archbishop's voice remained loud and clear. The emperor is evil and corrupt. The Global Alliance aims to save the bloodline of the gods from the hands of this cruel emperor. At that moment, as he spoke, Riola Branider was stunned, but his expression didn't seem too worried. Meanwhile, Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach remained calm, standing still as the archbishop babbled nonsense. By the wisdom and justice that my position as archbishop represents, I declare the alliance re-established. He read, secretly hoping for a signal to be sent. Now, Mr. K, please send the soldiers. Then he turned toward the main door. The nobles below suddenly fell silent. So, they didn't know anything either? The archbishop waited, but no one broke in, making his face turn pale. What? Why is no one coming? He opened his eyes wide in worry, thinking he might not survive this time. Who in the world would crawl into a den to catch a tiger like this? By the time he recovered, Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach was already standing beside him, calling out. Archbishop Ludovico sneered. You just admitted to your rebellious plan against me and my empire. The archbishop was scared and instinctively stepped back, but his heart remained firm. Yes, that's right. I cannot allow your cruelty to continue. Furious, he said. Your end has come, Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach. Everyone here belongs to the alliance. Soldiers will arrive shortly. Too bad for you. How could these greedy people sell their lives for the word loyalty? One of them shouted, What nonsense are you talking about, Archbishop? They hurried to explain, No, Your Majesty. We don't know what he's talking about. Others began to echo. According to them, he was the only one calling for soldiers. We're not involved. The Archbishop itched with frustration. How could no one know about this? His legs involuntarily stepped back. Could this be a trap? Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach stood nearby, pleased by his submissive demeanor. The smile was unmistakable. Coincidentally, the smug person had now become Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach. You said all the guests I invited are members of the Alliance? He finally ended this game. All of you have been hiding in the shadows. I'm glad to finally meet all of you. If you surrender willingly, I will spare your lives. Young Master, standing in the crowd, saw his plan fail and only clicked his tongue in annoyance before turning away. After some handling without much struggle, the Alliance soldiers' hands were decorated with handcuffs. Riola Branider looked worried as they were escorted away. She probably feared mistakenly arresting them all as members of the Alliance. Eisen explained that if their families knew nothing about this, they would not be punished. The Emperor didn't want to make anyone sad. Indeed. Riola Branider felt relieved hearing this. Truly, he was a husband worthy of 4 sacrifices. Riola Branider suddenly noticed someone and hurried ahead, under Eisen's puzzled gaze. Your Highness, but Riola Branider hurriedly held his hand back. Why are you here? She asked worriedly. It's too dangerous here for you to be wandering around, making his face flush red and his heart start to race wildly. Bala boom. But Eisen, seeing him emerge from the crowd, immediately reminded His Highness that he might also belong to the Alliance. However, Riola Branider casually brushed it off. No, this person isn't that, she naively said like a young deer. Yet she remained confident in her own thoughts, just missing the phrase, you don't know anything to say that he's the servant I met at the last party. Haha, we talked to each other. So Riola Branider casually took young Master's hand. The soldiers would mistake if he stayed here. Come with me, she said, leading him out to the garden, then comfortably stretched her hand and even yawned a bit. Ah, better now, young Master asked curiously. Is she a bit tense? In His Majesty's presence, it's so intimidating. Let's go breathe some fresh air. With her enthusiasm, young Master could only remain silent. She tucked her hair back and sighed. He's never been like this. I don't understand why. Riola Branider didn't open the gate for people to leave, but instead led him to the garden to talk, and even then, it was mostly about her husband. He's changed a lot since we got engaged, she revealed her doubts. He's sacrificing too much under the pretext of protecting me. But at this point, I'm no longer sure. Whether he's protecting me or protecting his own power, young Master asked upon hearing this. Don't you feel happy? But Riola Branider hesitated a bit. I'm not sure anymore. Riola Branider's words made him angry, veins bulging, and his face flushed. I will never make you sad. But obviously, these words stayed only in his heart. If he tried to say them out loud, he'd probably lose his head. The tense atmosphere suddenly broke as Riola Branider laughed out loud. "Ha ha ha," she said. "Oh, sorry, I just remembered something from childhood that made his face sour but then blush because of her story. I once met someone who told me to run away with him when I was in trouble." She smiled wryly, recounting with regret. "He was my first love." After he said that sentence, like a prince in a fairy tale, he disappeared. Young master began to recount their childhood story. "We used to hide under the blanket together when it rained. Lying on the bed, he said he would protect me. It was a secret, but he had special powers." Riola Branider felt itchy. How did he know? She was startled. "He is Kai?" He admitted it. "Yes, Riola Branider. I am Kai. I came here to keep my promise to you. Let's run away together." She was a bit cautious. "You want us to run away from the castle together? But the Emperor controls everything here." "How? Wait, stop. It sounds like Riola Branider also intends to run away." "Oh my." Riola Branider's hesitation was suddenly interrupted by Aizen's call. "Your Highness." You and the two other guards hurried over. His hand already held the sword's hilt, just waiting for the moment to draw it. "Please step back." Riola Branider just stood there frozen. It seemed she still hadn't grasped the situation, while young master beside her had already prepared a plan to deal with this. He gave a sinister smile and said, "I have a way," then stretched out his hand, creating a blue energy source. "Look out!" The two guards following Asian earlier were quickly subdued. Their bodies suddenly stiffened, and they even groaned a few times with cracking sounds under young master's control. They rushed to attack Aizen. No wonder he's the captain of the night squad. Though surprised, Aizen quickly drew his sword to block the guard's strike, the clanging sound ringing from the swords. More and more appeared. Riola Branider was stunned. "This is young master," she sneered. "This is the special power he told me about before." Despite the blood smeared on his face, he was very proud. Maybe this is the effect of the magic used by the descendant of Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach. He calmly explained while controlling the two guards to attack Asian. "Don't worry, as long as we're together, I can escape from the Emperor whenever I want. I'm not like that Emperor, who's crazy because of his greed." He knew she was waiting for his words, but was cut off by Riola Branider. "You're plotting to kill my Emperor?" "Yeah, who said he went mad because of greed?" So it turns out, not only young master knows how to plan. A few days ago, Jess discovered something quite important, so I came to report to Riola Branider and Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach that I saw Kai in Princess Greta Jess's memory and gave them his facial sketch. This man, Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach, continued for Riola Branider, seems to know about your childhood. Do you remember anything about him? Riola Branider quickly shook her head, no, then suddenly recalled when she visited the people of Old Riola. She seemed to have seen him before, but had a hunch. So Riola Branider confidently turned to Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach and said, "Your Majesty, I will be the bait," Riola Branider explained. "I am the only one unaffected when this man is near. I can lure him into a trap." But the crazy idea was immediately dismissed by Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach. "No," Riola Branider called out, confused. "Your Majesty." He tightly grabbed the sleeve or even the coat, saying, "I invited those bastards here to protect you. I protect the throne and voluntarily engage in battle, all because I want to ensure your safety in this world." Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach knelt down helplessly. "And now, you want me to use you as bait? You're torturing my heart." Riola Branider smiled bitterly. She gently held his hand. "Your Majesty, he can't hurt you." Then she kissed him. Jess and Aizen sitting in the corner of the room must be thinking how heartbreaking it is. Damn, I have to eat dog food even when I go to work. Riola Branider reassured her husband. "Don't worry, I'll come back safe as always." Back to the present, Riola Branider tightened her dress near Kai's voice. "Palante, you are the leader of the Alliance, right? The one causing all this trouble is also you, Kai, from my childhood. Why are you standing down there?" Seeing Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach come out, she called her husband's name. Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach stood above, witnessing his wife holding hands, complaining to another man, and recalling their vows. Back then, he was just annoyed. Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach gritted his teeth. "Finally, I get to see your face, Kai Palante. How dare you touch my woman?" He drew his sword, the one who must die to pay for his crimes. By some force, maybe the power of love, Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach leapt from the balcony upstairs, straight down to the garden. Luckily, Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach is an emperor, not some brainless CEO, so he still realizes that his power's range is vast. Could he not control it? How? Exactly. As Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach finished speaking, blood suddenly gushed out nonstop. Riola Branider worriedly shouted, "Your Majesty, are you okay?" Blood spilled on the grass, but the owner of the blood was the young master, not Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach. "So lucky, heh." He suddenly called Riola Branider, startling her. He smiled a painfully ugly smile. His eyes were crossed, his voice perverted. "Riola Branider, come with me. I have a lot to tell you." Riola Branider screamed in fear, "Let me go," but he still held her hand tightly. "Do you remember when you were little, you really wanted to know about your mother?" Her face paled with fear. He didn't listen to her. He squeezed her hand tighter. "Don't resist me, Riola Branider. Don't you feel happy when your first love comes to save you?" "Happy my ass. Don't you see my face turning pale because of your expression?" Riola Branider lowered her voice. "It's too late now to make me happy. What are you doing?" Her expression suddenly darkened. I hate having to go to your mansion. When I was little, every time the orphanage director took me there, I felt their hatred. They all saw me as a parasite, just clinging to their money to live. Your colleagues treated me even worse. Young master frowned. What are you saying? Riola Branitor said bitterly. You don't know what kind of painful childhood I went through. She pulled her hand back. So how could you make me happy? Then she jerked her hand away from him. You act like you love me so much, but I don't even remember who you are. Riola Branitor's words stabbed deep into his heart. This can only be called karma, just as I like it. She shouted, I forgot my first love a long time ago. It was just a lie to lure you into a trap. Young master was so embarrassed he got angry. Riola, how could you? He knew his power was useless on her, so he lunged to physically react by choking her. How could you betray me like that? But how could he choke her when her husband was still here? With a swish, blood splattered in front of Riola. Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach appeared in a flash like a hero, but touching his wife was not easy. Take your hands off her, quickly. The young master lay curled up on the ground, clutching his stomach, while Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach only cared about marking his territory. Don't look at her with those eyes. Even though he seemed unable to resist anymore, he still had no intention of letting you go. You weren't even worthy. Breathing heavily, sharing the atmosphere with her, he tightened his grip on the sword, enunciating each word. Never think you can live alongside her. Riola Branitor stood behind, involuntarily staring at the blood-stained sword, which frightened her. Turning away, the young master sneered. Do you think everything will end if you kill me? Though cornered, he still spoke boldly. As long as you alone monopolize the descendants of Antu, this battle will continue. But Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach ignored it, not caring that more blood flowed from his mouth than his saliva. When you're hungry but still cocky, look at you, you're just like me, a monster. But Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach, having a wife, was less talkative. Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach immediately retorted, I've never claimed to be a hero. I'm just trying to protect the woman I love. Do you know how you and I differ? The young master's veins bulged with anger as he listened. Then Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach stabbed a few more times into his heart. Even if I become a monster, I will still have a goddess protecting me. He ended with a line that made the young master dizzy with anger, bleeding more as he got more furious. Seeing the opportunity, Eisen stepped closer behind him. It was unclear whether Eisen moved as quietly as a ghost, or if the young master was so angry he didn't notice. When Eisen touched his shoulder, he was startled, but by then it was too late. Eisen pushed him down, and the young master was quickly subdued on the ground. After everything, the archbishop was also brought to court. Standing before the tribunal, he could no longer deny anything as he had admitted to betraying the nation. So even the temple had to submit to the emperor. The few men behind him could only shake their heads in dismay. Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach sat high above, proudly looking down at the scene below. This was a perfect victory for the emperor. After a year full of troubles and events, the white snow began to fall again. Winter had arrived. Riola Branitor walked along the corridor to Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach's place. She pushed the door open and entered. Gently she asked, Your Majesty, do you want to see me? She sat down in the chair. After a moment, a strange person cloaked entirely in white sat opposite her. Riola Branitor looked puzzled. Who is this? Jess, seeing Riola Branitor had arrived, handed her a piece of paper. We've been waiting for you. She took the paper. Why? Jess began to explain. Do you remember how the temple cooperated with the Empire in the recent trial? Riola Branitor quickly answered, Of course. The temple was the one who took the initiative to propose it. Regretting their overly conservative and closed behavior, they planned to elect a diplomat to act as a neutral party and help us communicate. Riola Branitor asked confusedly, But why are you telling me this? Before Jess could answer, the mysterious woman opposite explained on his behalf. The hero who protected the Emperor is also the saint who destroyed the Alliance. Riola Branitor quickly corrected, but that was the Emperor's doing. The woman remained stubborn, speaking as if it couldn't have succeeded without the descendants of Antu. She bowed her head. I want to thank you, and also as a representative of the temple. But Riola Branitor still couldn't grasp the situation clearly. Then the woman remembered and took off her hood and cloak. Oh, let me introduce myself again. I am Priestess Amelia. Let me explain. The temple wants you to become the head of the temple and take on the role of diplomat. Riola Branitor's face froze as Amelia proudly said, The power of the saint will also greatly help the descendants of Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach who are in the temple. Amelia continued, This will allow those people to maintain their humanity. They won't go mad anymore. Riola Branitor murmured, Their humanity? So this means it will help reduce deaths, similar to Fabian and Kai, right? Hearing this, Riola Branitor's kindness surfaced as she quickly asked, What does your husband think, Your Majesty? Herrn Linhart von Wiensbach pondered for a moment, then concluded, If you like it, just do it. Riola Branitor could only smile awkwardly. Clearly, he didn't like the idea. She thought he would stop her, but he didn't. In the end, he said, You. He took her hand and promised to always be by her side. The atmosphere here was sweet, but on the other side, Jess and Amelia were equally fed up, ignoring the heart-shaped filters floating around their heads. Amelia just wanted to focus on the main matter. So you agree, right? Riola Branitor hesitated a little. I don't know if I'm capable of doing this. I'm the queen. so I will definitely be biased towards my homeland. I don't know if I can be fair. Amelia smiled, threw her arm around her neck, and took off the necklace. You don't need to worry about this. Riola Branider wondered what it was. Amelia handed her a necklace. It's from the mother of the person who dedicated her whole life to the shrine. Your Highness, so I'm sure you will come to love the shrine too. Her words stunned Riola Branider. How do you know about my mother? Amelia began to tell the story from 15 years ago when Archbishop Ludovico seized the shrine. Many priests who opposed him were killed, and your mother was one of them. She paused and asked Riola Branider, does the name Ivan sound familiar to you? Riola Branider naturally answered no, so Amelia continued. Based on the records left by Priestess Yvonne, she hid her daughter in a small village in Riola because her life was threatened. Due to the cruelty of the Archbishop, she thought she would see you again soon. Riola Branider listened, only able to wonder, why did the shrine hide this truth? Amelia shook her head. Only Ludovico and his closest secretary know this. Even we just found out. It sounds unstable, Herr Hohan Linhart von Wiensbach said. Of course, I can't let my wife be in danger, so how can we trust you? Amelia opened the necklace. This is the portrait of Priestess Yvonne. Her hair is red, just like your Highness's, which isn't common. Riola Branider silently looked at the necklace for a long time, then stared at Amelia, and only said, I need more time to think. Amelia happily stood up. Of course, I will come back later. Then she closed the door and left. Jess sighed at this moment. So this is why the Alliance is so confident they can bring the Queen back to the Eisen Shrine. It's unbelievable. Do you know anything about this, Your Highness? Riola Branider paused and replied with a single word, no. The mercenary group raised me from the orphanage. I can't believe I have a family. Seeing her sadness, Herr Hohan Linhart von Wiensbach immediately interrupted. Of course you do. His mouth comforted her, but his face was a bit annoyed. Your family is here. Riola Branider silently looked at him and then laughed at his warmth. That's right, you also have me. The castle was covered in a layer of snow. Weeks had passed since the priestess. Amelia visited the palace. Amelia never visited the palace again, but she and Riola Branider had become friends, thanks to exchanging letters. Riola Branider wrote while thinking, I know she understands me. Because she was too busy with the upcoming wedding, suddenly there was a knock on the door. The maid came in and asked Lady Riola Branider, Are you writing letters again? She replied, Yes. The maid lightly scolded her. You're already busy with the wedding and still writing letters back to her? You're too kind, Your Highness. Riola Branider smiled awkwardly and explained, But she told me about her mother. Hearing that, Lou had to admit defeat. If you say so, I'm curious. Lou, what's my schedule today? Why? Just selling things, she answered. You were too busy yesterday, so His Majesty said you should rest today. Lou lightly tapped the teacup on Riola Branider's table. She wondered, what about him? Lou said. He went to the shrine for a meeting. Meanwhile, Riola Branider thought about her husband. He must be very tired. Does he care about his health? She thought about His Majesty surrounded by work. After dealing with the Alliance faction, he had to replace the nobles who were arrested, busy restoring the empire from chaos. But besides that, she knew he was also very troubled, was free from chaos. But besides that, Your Majesty, you also know that you have a headache. I have to prepare for the upcoming wedding. Riola Branider worried about Herr Hohan Linhart von Wiensbach's health. Maybe we should leave it for a bit. Suddenly she said, let's go outside to breathe some fresh air. The maid happily agreed. Of course, yes, the atmosphere was gloomy and tiring at the ambassador's office. Riola and others were exhausted. Even though they were slumped over, their hands still had to hold the pen. That person complained, we will die if we keep working like this. When will Lord Eel return? The person opposite, also exhausted, replied, I don't know. Riola Branider was surprised that everyone was so tired. Upon hearing a familiar voice, both of them jumped up. Miss Riola Branider, we mean. She immediately bowed and greeted, Your Highness. She smiled brightly. I hope both of you are doing well. Feeling caught red-handed, they were questioned. Why did you come here? Riola Branider asked Han. I heard you two were working very hard, so I came to help. They were flustered. We can't let anyone work, Your Highness. Despite their objections, she pulled out a chair and sat down. But before I was queen, I was still the ambassador of Riola. Now, even if you stop me, it won't work anymore. Riola Branider smiled brightly. I want to work, so don't worry. Just give me what needs approval. One side was helpless, the other smiled brightly as if being pushed forward. They hurriedly said, Then are there any easy documents here? We will send people with the urgent approvals. Transferring the documents to Riola Branider would be great if she could approve these things. She accepted them. Got it, thank you. Suddenly someone asked, Your Highness, will Lord Isle not return? Looking at the empty chair, she was silent and then answered, Yes, Eel will no longer work here. He wondered, what happened? She was nervous. It's a personal matter, no need to tell the truth to them. Recently, Herr Hohan Linhart von Wiensbach informed her that he would let Isle leave freely. Riola Branider feared she misheard. Yes, he explained that I gave him a house in a village far from the palace, some money, and a new job. To stabilize his life, Herr Hohan Linhart von Wiensbach soothed her by gently kissing her nose. I should have executed him for betraying us. But I didn't want you to be sad. You don't need to worry about Isle anymore. She agreed. Yes, Riola Branider slowly announced. We will find someone to replace his position, AI asked. But who will find someone better? I am here. She was surprised by the voice just now. It was Isle. His appearance at the office surprised Riola Branitor. Lord Isle? She was flustered. You're back, but how? He didn't rush to answer her question, but asked back. Aren't you happy that I returned to work? Riola Branitor clasped her hands before her chest and explained, No, not exactly, but thinking about it, it's different. I felt sad because he left without a word. Eel corrected. The reason I returned is after helping my family move. There are still piles of documents on the table. I never intended to leave. I have many things to do here. How could I leave? Isle stepped closer to Riola Branitor. She said, Stay with me. He felt guilty. Sorry. They shook hands happily. If so, you don't need to feel that way anymore. You saved us, and His Majesty has forgiven you. Isle blushed. No, he doesn't think like you do. I don't think His Majesty has completely forgiven me. Really? Riola Branitor asked back. Do you think so? Isle released her hand. I have committed too many crimes against him. Do you want to know everything? Is there anything I don't know? Riola Branitor listened carefully. Yes. But I won't tell anyone. No matter what expression you make, I won't say a word. Eel's eyes seemed to smile. I will never tell anyone. He snatched the papers from her hand, cutting off her thoughts. He seemed to have been chased by AI, but now he smiled lightly. Riola Branitor hadn't recovered yet. Hey, I was about to do these. Isle held a brown folder. I'm back. You can leave that for me. Then he handed something to Riola Branitor instead. She opened it. If you think a gift can help you escape guilt, don't even dream about it. Seeing something in the book made her eyes widen. She realized this book was inserted among 4 children's books. Eel continued, I saw it at the bookstore, so. Riola Branitor reached out and hugged him tightly. Thank you, Isle. He was shy. He gently placed his hand on her back and then clenched Riola Branitor's hand. She was excited. Thank you, Isle. He continued, This is a wedding gift I give you. Congratulations. Just as he left the room, Riola Branitor suddenly peeked in. Hey, Eel. Riola Branitor smiled brightly and warmly welcomed him. I'm glad you're back. I'm not just saying this because of this gift. Isle smiled, holding the stack of papers, saying goodbye. He stood still for a moment after the door closed tightly. When Riola Branitor left, they turned their heads in opposite directions. As long as you are happy, I don't care that I can't be by your side. Just like this is enough. Snow kept falling. Sadness enveloped the castle. At the conference table, Jess reported, It seems that now we are gradually stabilizing everything, and the people around us as well. We really didn't expect to be able to restore the shrine to this level, even though there is no archbishop appointed yet. Hohan Linhart von Wiensbach clasped his hands on the table. Fortunately, more and more of our courtiers realize that we need to maintain a good relationship with the shrine. They also said they even requested His Majesty to approve a candidate for the new supervisor position. Your Majesty, a shadow represents the candidate. It seems they intend to recruit an outsider to lead the shrine. Hohan Linhart von Wiensbach answered, Yes, that's right. Suddenly the door opened. Someone reported, No, she doesn't want to do it. So we didn't force her. Ha ha ha. She refused? You asked in surprise. Heavens, you didn't know? Riola Branitor informed me of her decision by letter. Upon hearing this, Hohan Linhart von Wiensbach immediately hurried out of the office. He quickly opened the door to Riola Branitor's room. She was sitting enjoying tea and asked in surprise, Your Majesty, are you done with your work? Riola Branitor didn't notice anything unusual and continued, I thought you'd be busy for a few more days. Hohan Linhart von Wiensbach remained silent, watching. Finally, he spoke. I heard you refused their offer. You don't want to do it? Riola Branitor was slightly startled and asked again. What? Hohan Linhart von Wiensbach continued. You refused them because I forced you to, right? Riola Branitor's eyes welled up with tears. So that's why you came back early because of this. Hohan lowered his head. Is it because I said I want you to be by my side that you decided like this? The two of them silently looked at each other. Then Riola Branitor slowly pulled out a book. Your Majesty, do you know what this book is? She opened the book to show him. This was my favorite book when I was a child. On the pages, there is a couple holding hands happily. The last part of the book is my favorite part. Henry and Anne are happy and love each other forever. It's not an ending where Henry and Anne save the world, but an ending where they love each other happily. He listened attentively as she spoke. I think that's exactly what Anne should do. I don't understand, he said. She reached out to explain. Bringing peace to the one you love is more important to me than bringing peace to the whole world. Her hand gently held his. That's exactly what I want to do. I don't want to be a savior to anyone else. Saying these sweet things made her cheeks flush. Maybe I'm a little selfish, but I just want to belong to you alone. The weight on Hohan Linhart von Wiensbach's shoulders was finally lifted by Riola Branitor's confession. He sighed in relief. Hohan Linhart von Wiensbach leaned down at her feet affectionately. I love you, Riola Branitor. Then he sat beside her but still held her hands. Riola Branitor leaned gently on his shoulder. Do you remember the first time you held my hand? Memories of their first time quickly flooded back at Riola's palace. The flowers in that garden were so beautiful. This day finally arrived. The royal wedding of the Elstuvia Empire. It finally officially began. It was a clear, sunny day. Perhaps everyone's prayers for this ceremony were answered because today was warm, like a spring day. Everyone was eagerly working. In the festive atmosphere, he also showed his love. Your Highness, congratulations. A carriage passed by. Long live Queen Riola Branitor. Inside was a Riola Branitor who couldn't smile, worried. She felt lonely. She wanted to be with the Emperor, but she hadn't seen him since yesterday because of the tradition here. Then Eisen knocked and announced, "Your Highness, it's time to proceed inside." She replied, "I know." Riola Branitor carefully stepped down. "I can't make a mistake. I am the queen now." A fragrance appeared. "Where is it? I smell flowers." She wondered what it was. As she moved forward, she looked again at the silver roses that only bloom in winter. Eisen seemed to know her thoughts. "Your Majesty, it really is spacious, isn't it? At everyone's feet are silver rose petals. This flower is very rare, so it is usually only used to decorate bouquets, but instead of making an arch, that day they laid it along the path." Riola Branitor couldn't believe the flowers were flowing all along the path. Wherever the two walked, people applauded. "You confirm that's right. That day, they even told us to leave the flowers after the wedding so the locals could take them as gifts. Now the flower-covered path only has Riola Branitor stepping forward. No one wants to ruin the flowers because they want to take them home after the ceremony ends. So no matter how many people surround the path, the person will always be safe. Your Highness, she is just a woman with a delicate soul. Being pampered like this, who could bear it? I understand now." From this moment, she knew how much he loved her. "He listens and cares for me." Riola Branitor was lost in memories when she heard her name called. The person she loved was standing right in front of her. "I can't stop myself from loving you because you always fill the path I walk with fragrant flowers." The sky was as beautiful as their love story. The wedding was decorated with all kinds of flowers. The two stood before the altar, ready to recite their vows. The officiant stood up and began, "Please vow before everyone here." He raised his hand and started first. "I, Hohan Linhart von Wiensbach, vow to take Riola Branitor as my empress and my one and only partner, to love and cherish her until death do us part." Then it was her turn. Riola Branitor vowed to take Hohan Linhart von Wiensbach as her emperor and her one and only partner, loving and true. Because she was too nervous, she had to read it again. I mean, to love and protect him until death do us part. Finally, the moment to conclude, the vows came. The wedding vows were completed, declaring them husband and wife. Riola Branitor bowed to receive the crown. "I hereby officially declare Riola Branitor." This was the most brilliant moment. Riola Branitor's beautiful face was elevated by the crown. This moment would go down in history. She would be the empress of the great Elchuvak Empire. After receiving the title, she stood waving to the crowd below, who cheered and congratulated the special day. Riola Branitor gently tapped her husband's shoulder. "Of course, your Highness needs me, right?" Looking at the figure of the one she loved, Riola Branitor was immersed in emotion. "I will always love and be by your side, Hohan Linhart von Wiensbach." Her gaze was full of hearts now. She smiled softly at the man of her life. Today, Hohan Linhart von Wiensbach bowed and gently kissed Riola Branitor's soft lips. He couldn't hide his happiness. "I am very glad you have started calling me by my name." Riola Branitor's smile shone like sunlight. "The one you chose to be with for life is Hohan Linhart von Wiensbach, not Hohan Linhart von Wiensbach or any emperor title." The sound of the sea waves soothed away all worries. No matter what happens, the two enjoyed their honeymoon on the beach together. "I will always seek you." Holding hands, they enjoyed the joy of a happy marriage. "I am no longer afraid." Riola Branitor jumped out of the water because as long as we hold hands, we are stronger than anything else. Riola Branitor jumped onto Hohan Linhart von Wiensbach. They looked at each other affectionately. Her childhood wish had come true, to live a happy life beside the one she loved. Thank you all for following today's video. So we have come to the conclusion of this exciting story. See you in the next video, which will feature an even more dramatic and thrilling story. Don't forget to like and subscribe to support us and not miss any new videos. Sincerely thank you for watching. Wishing you all a joyful day.